My name is Claire, and for the past 15 years, I've been married to Michael, the love of my life and the father of our 12-year-old twins. At least, that's what we all believed until that fateful family dinner changed everything. It all started 3 months earlier when Lauren, Michael's sister, returned to the city after a decade abroad. Her homecoming should have been a joyful occasion, a time for family to reconnect and mend the bonds that had slowly faded over the years. But from the moment she arrived, something didn't feel right. When Lauren and I saw each other after 10 years apart, there was an awkward tension I couldn't ignore. Claire, she said, her voice over enthusiastic, pulling me into a stiff hug. Her smile never quite reached her eyes. The kids have grown so much. They really look, well, I guess they have to look like someone. The hesitation in her voice was impossible to miss, and I could tell she was choosing her words carefully. But I brushed it off. After all, it had been years since we'd all gathered together. I convinced myself it was just the awkwardness of time and distance. Over the next few weeks, Lauren's strange comments kept coming. Every time she looked at the twins, David and Daniel, she makes some offhand remark about their appearance. It's odd, she said one afternoon over coffee, absent-mindedly stirring her cup. I don't really see any of Michael in them. Who do you think they take after? I felt irritation bubble up inside me. My father. I replied sharply, my tone colder than I intended. The twins had inherited my father's strong jawline and deep-set eyes. Lauren hummed in response, her lips curling into a half-smile. If you say so. But it didn't stop there. One evening, as I was making dinner, I walked into my bedroom to find Lauren snooping around. Oh, she gasped, startled when she saw me standing in the doorway. I was just looking for the bathroom. The bathroom is at the other end of the hall. I reminded her, trying to keep my voice flat. You know that, right? Right. Must have gotten confused, she said, laughing nervously, but her eyes kept scanning the room. You have a lot of old pictures here. I like to keep memories alive, I replied, forcing calm into my voice. Memories of everyone, she asked, her tone laced with something I couldn't quite place. It almost sounded accusatory. A chill ran down my spine. There was something unsettling about the way she was acting, the way her gaze lingered on the photos. My unease only deepened later that night. After the kids were in bed, I told Michael about my concerns. I think your sister is looking for something, I said, my voice low. What could she be looking for? Michael asked, clearly confused. I don't know, I admitted, shaking my head. But the way she talks about the kids, the questions about the past, something's off. Michael sighed, leaning back in his chair. Lauren's always been intense, especially after Dad left her most of his fortune in his will. The will. Michael's father had passed away 5 years ago, and the bulk of his estate had gone to Lauren, leaving Michael with a much smaller share. But Michael had never cared about the money. He was already well established in his career. But now that she's back, Michael continued, she's different. More bitter, maybe. At the time, I didn't fully grasp just how true those words were. The tension finally came to a head during our monthly family dinner. The evening started out like any other. Michael, the twins, Lauren, and Elena, his mother, all gathered around the table. Elena had made her famous paella, and we were catching up on the past month. But Lauren seemed agitated, as though she were holding something back. Suddenly, Lauren broke the silence. Do you all remember when Michael and Claire first started dating? She asked. Claire used to work at that little bar near the university. What was it called? The Crest. I answered, my stomach tightening at the memory. That was where Michael and I had met back in our college days. Yes, the Crest, Lauren said, nodding. Do you remember Anthony? The bartender. A cold shiver ran through me. I knew exactly where this was going, and I didn't like it. Vaguely, I replied, trying to stay calm. Oh, come on, Lauren laughed, but it was a thin, strained sound. You remember him better than that, especially that month when Michael was away on his exchange program in New York. The twins, who had been eating quietly, suddenly stopped. Their eyes darted between Lauren and me, confusion and unease written all over their faces. Lauren, Elena interjected, sensing the growing tension. That's enough. Lauren feigned innocence. I'm just reminiscing, she said, her voice too light. Funny how certain coincidences happen, don't you think? Michael turned to me, brow furrowed in confusion. What is she talking about? Nothing, I said quickly, forcing a smile. Lauren's just trying to stir up drama. Drama? Lauren stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You call it drama? I call it hiding the truth. For 12 years. Lauren, please. Elena tried again, her voice pleading. No, Mom, Lauren snapped, her voice rising. It's time everyone knew the truth. She pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. Want to see something interesting? I found Anthony on Facebook. It's amazing how much he looks like. Enough, I cut her off, my voice sharp. But it was too late. Lauren wasn't finished. She looked at Michael, a smirk playing on her lips that sent a chill down my spine. Michael, she declared, you're not the father of the twins. Claire cheated on you with Anthony while you were in New York. The room fell into stunned silence. The twins stared at me, their faces filled with confusion and hurt. Elena's hand flew to her mouth to stifle a sob. And Michael just stared at me, his face frozen in shock. In that moment, everything changed. The life we had built, the family we had created, it all came crashing down. I stood slowly, my heart racing but my mind curiously calm. The tension in the room was thick, and I locked eyes with Lauren. Are you finished? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Lauren tilted her head, her smirk wide and triumphant. The truth hurts, doesn't it? She replied. I nodded slowly and reached for my purse, my fingers brushing against the cool leather. Funny you should bring up the truth, Lauren, I said, keeping my voice controlled. There's something you should know. Everyone turned their attention to me, sensing the change in the air. I pulled out an envelope. Lauren's smile never wavered, but I saw her hands tremble. What's that? She asked, trying to keep her tone mocking. Funny that you mentioned Anthony, I continued, maintaining my composure. Because I knew deep down that one day you'd try something like this. I opened the envelope slowly, pulling out several documents one by one. 3 months ago, when you came back and started making your little comments about the kids, I decided to take precautions. David, my eldest by 5 minutes, looked at me with concern, his wide eyes mirroring the unease I was trying to keep at bay. Everything's fine, sweetheart. I reassured him softly. Lauren is just about to learn a very important lesson about minding her own business. I could feel Michael's gaze on me, but I didn't look at him yet. Instead, I turned to him. Love, do you remember when I told you I was taking the kids for their medical checkups last month? I asked, my voice steady. He nodded slowly, clearly puzzled. Yeah, I remember. Well, I said, placing the first document on the table between us. Along with their routine exams, I decided to do something else. I paused for a moment, watching Lauren's expression shift. DNA tests. Lauren's face drained of color. You're lying, she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Why would I lie? I asked, my voice calm but firm. After all, according to you, I had something to hide, didn't I? Elena, who had been silent until now, leaned in to examine the papers. This is, she began, her voice trailing off as her eyes scanned the results. 99.99% compatibility, I said, completing her thought for her. Michael is without a doubt the father of David and Daniel. But I wasn't done. I pulled out more documents from the envelope. And this is particularly interesting, I said, keeping my voice even. Remember Anthony, Lauren? Because he certainly remembers you. Lauren's smug smile disappeared instantly, replaced by a look of disbelief and fear. What are you talking about? She demanded, her voice tight with panic. He was very kind when I contacted him. I continued, my tone unwavering. In fact, he helped me understand why you've been so obsessed with pushing this false narrative. Shut up, Lauren whispered, her voice shaking with rage. Why should I? Didn't you want everyone to know the truth? I turned to Elena and Michael, who were both watching me now, their expressions a mixture of confusion and concern. Anthony told me everything about his relationship with Lauren back in college, about the pregnancy, and about the money she gave him to handle the problem. Elena gasped, her eyes wide with shock. Lauren, what is she saying? She's lying. Lauren screamed, but the tears in her eyes betrayed her. He also told me how you threatened him 5 years ago when your father was preparing his will. I continued, my voice steady. How you demanded he never reveal his past with you, or you'd ruin his marriage. Michael, who had been silent up until that moment, finally spoke. Lauren, is this true? No, Lauren's voice faltered, and she collapsed into her chair, defeated. You don't understand. I pulled out the last document from the envelope, my heart heavy with the weight of the truth. And this is the most interesting part, I said, tapping my phone as I prepared to show them something. Remember when I found you in our bedroom, supposedly looking for the bathroom? I brought up a video on the screen. That night, I installed a security camera. The video played, showing Lauren rummaging through our things, speaking urgently on the phone. I need to find something. Anything that proves those kids aren't Michael's heirs, she said, her voice frantic. Dad changed his will before he died. If Michael has legitimate heirs, half of everything goes to them when they turn 18. I can't let that happen. The silence in the room was deafening. Every single person was frozen, unable to process the depth of what they had just seen. So there you have it, I said, my voice cold as I placed the documents back into my purse. The real reason behind your sudden interest in my children's paternity. Elena was crying quietly now, unable to control her tears. Michael, on the other hand, stared at his sister, his face a mask of disbelief. It was as if he was seeing her for the first time. Lauren stumbled to her feet, clearly shaken. This wasn't. She swallowed hard. This wasn't how you expected this dinner to end. I asked softly, my words cutting through the air like a knife. You didn't think anyone would uncover your lies? Aunt Lauren, Daniel's small voice interrupted, and he looked up at her with confusion in his innocent eyes. Why did you want to hurt us? That simple, heartbreaking question shattered something deep inside Lauren. She collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, she cried, her body racked with guilt and shame. But her apologies came too late. The damage had been done, and the truth could never be undone. Michael stood, his face hardening into a cold mask. I think it's time for you to leave, Lauren. Michael, please, she pleaded, her voice desperate. Go, he said, his tone final. We'll talk if I can ever understand why you did this. The days following that dinner were a blur of emotions and revelations. Elena, devastated by her daughter's actions, decided to investigate further into Lauren's life. I can't believe I didn't see it before, Elena said one afternoon as we sifted through old family documents. All the signs were there. What she uncovered was far worse than we ever imagined. Lauren hadn't just manipulated their father during his final days to secure a larger share of the inheritance. She had been embezzling funds from the family business for years. One morning, exactly 1 week after that fateful dinner, I received an unexpected phone call. Claire, it's Anthony. My heart skipped a beat. Anthony, I know you weren't expecting this, and I'm sorry for calling out of the blue, but there's something I need to tell you about Lauren. Something I should have said before. Why now? I asked, my voice cautious. Because I was scared. We met later that afternoon at a small cafe near my office, tucked away from the bustle of the city. Anthony sat across from me, his posture stiff, eyes flicking nervously from side to side as though expecting someone to be watching him. His unease was palpable, and I could sense the weight of what he was about to say hanging in the air between us. Lauren didn't just threaten me, he began, his voice barely above a whisper, as if the very words might be dangerous. She's been blackmailing me for years. And I'm not the only one. I've got proof. Documents. Recordings. My heart skipped a beat. I leaned in closer, struggling to keep my voice steady. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, a knot of unease tightening in my chest. Anthony took a deep breath, his fingers trembling as he handed me his phone. Because I got this today. I glanced at the screen. The message was unmistakable, a text from Lauren, laced with thinly veiled threats. She warned him that if he didn't help her regain what was rightfully hers, she would ruin him. The message was chilling, full of desperation and malice. She's desperate, I murmured, my voice barely audible. And she's dangerous, Anthony replied, his face grave. Claire, there are more people like me, people Lauren has manipulated and threatened for years. The weight of his words settled heavily on me, and I felt the ground beneath me shift. My thoughts raced as I processed the full scope of what he was saying. This wasn't just about Lauren's petty manipulations. It was much, much darker. That evening, I gathered Michael and Elena at home. The air in the room felt thick with tension, the truth threatening to suffocate us all. We had no choice but to face it head-on. After sharing everything Anthony had told me, we agreed to hire a private investigator to uncover the full extent of Lauren's schemes. What we uncovered left us reeling. Lauren's web of deception was more intricate and far-reaching than we could have ever imagined. She wasn't just manipulating Anthony, She had been running a sophisticated operation of blackmail and extortion for years. She had gathered sensitive, confidential information on several high-ranking executives within the family business. Using her position and connections, she had leveraged their secrets for her own gain. And she hadn't stopped there. She had exploited her father's declining health, twisting the truth to secure financial advantages for herself. It was all about power, control, and money. And she was willing to do anything to get what she wanted. "We have to do something," Michael said, his voice thick with restrained anger. His usual calm was gone, replaced by something raw and unrecognizable. Elena, ever the voice of reason, nodded. "Yes, but not out of revenge. We do this to protect our family, our legacy, and the future of the company. We couldn't let her continue. It was time to confront her once and for all." The next day, we called Lauren to the family estate, the place where everything had begun. When she arrived, she was not the confident, calculating woman we had once known. There was no smirk, no arrogance. Instead, she looked smaller, more fragile, like a cornered animal who could sense the walls closing in around her. She scanned the room, her eyes darting from me to Michael, then to Anthony and the others. People she had wronged. People whose lives she had torn apart. "What is this?" she asked, her voice quivering slightly. "Why am I here?" "This is your chance to do the right thing, Lauren," Elena said softly, her voice calm but resolute. For the next 2 hours, we listened as Lauren confessed. The words didn't come easily. She cried, apologized, and tried to justify her actions. She claimed she had been driven by a deep, unspoken pain, a need for validation she felt she had never received. "I just wanted to matter," she whispered, wiping her tears away. "Dad always favored Michael. Even when he gave me more money, it didn't change the fact that everyone loved Michael. He had the perfect family, the perfect life. I wanted to take something back. So you decided to destroy everything instead?" I asked, my voice steady but filled with disbelief. Lauren's shoulders slumped and her voice cracked as she mumbled, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Michael, who had remained silent up until this point, finally spoke. His voice was thick with emotion, but there was no forgiveness in it. "Lauren, you were always important. You were my sister. I loved you. But this," he shook his head, his jaw tightening. "This is unforgivable." Lauren's eyes flicked between us, her expression one of confusion and fear. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Elena took control of the moment, her tone cold and unyielding. "You're going to return every cent you stole. You're going to confess to the board. And you're going to get help." "And if I don't?" Lauren asked, her voice trembling. "Then," I said calmly, "we take everything we've gathered and turn it over to the authorities." The silence in the room was suffocating. Lauren looked around, taking in the faces of the people she had betrayed. And in that moment, something inside her seemed to break. Over the following months, Lauren complied with every condition we set. She returned the stolen money. She publicly confessed to her wrongdoings. She sought therapy and began the long road to redemption. The company underwent a massive restructuring, with new policies put in place to ensure nothing like this could happen again. Elena revised her father's will, making sure the rightful heirs, my sons, would be fairly treated. A year later, I received a letter from Lauren. It was from the rehabilitation center where she had checked herself in. "Dear Claire, I know I will never be able to undo the damage I caused, but I want you to know that every day, I work to become a better person. Thank you for exposing my lies that night. You saved me from myself. With regret and hope, Lauren." I placed the letter in a drawer with all the other documents from that chapter of our lives, not as a reminder of the pain, but as proof that the truth, no matter how painful, always finds its way into the light. The twins, now teenagers, have found a way to forgive their aunt, though they will never forget that night. Michael and I are stronger than ever. And Elena has found peace in knowing that she did what was right, even if it cost her the unconditional love of her daughter. As for me, I've learned something invaluable. Protecting your family sometimes means preparing for storms you never even see coming. Because in the end, family isn't just about blood. It's about the truth and the love we share. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, like the video and subscribe to our channel. This is Revenge Scales, where justice always finds its way. See you next time.